Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're going to just hold here for a couple more minutes to allow everyone else to get online, and then we will get started. Thanks. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining. Today's topic is the IBM Guardium Solution Suite. My name is Brad Peterson. I'm the Director of Business Development here at TechD. I'll be taking you through today's presentation. The agenda, give you a quick overview of TechD, who we are, and then we'll get into the Guardium Suite. We'll talk about the overall solution, some of the key features, and then I'm going to go into two of the offerings that differentiate and give you an idea of the flexibility and the completeness of the solution. And then if we have time at the end, we'll have a quick Q&A. If you do have any questions, you can definitely type them into the chat here, and hopefully someone monitoring will be able to answer, or we'll get back to you right after the webinar. I'll also be providing you with the slide deck that we're going to cover today that you can take with you and use as a reference and share with your team, so no need to take copious notes or try to keep up with me. So welcome, this is the TechD team. You may or may not have spoken to any or all of us. Mark Martina, our Senior Architect and Managing Partner at TechD. Jenny Happis is our Director of Marketing and Operations. Myself, Director of Business Development, and we appreciate you joining us today. So a little bit about TechD. We are a premier IBM business partner specializing in all things analytics and data. We have a rich history on the Cognos platform, as well as many of the other IBM analytics technologies, including Netezza, databases, data quality, and ETL solutions. We are a world-class implementer of such technologies, offering the full solution experience, including the software and appliances, implementation services, ongoing support, and training. We are located just outside of Philadelphia, home of the world champion Philadelphia Eagles, who are kicking off this season tonight. And we are a U.S. and Canada-based company, so we do support all industries and all clients across the two countries. So let's get into the topic of the day, IBM Security and Guardium. So the IBM Guardium platform is all about protecting your key data. And most companies we find have a great understanding of security and understanding of what they want to do to protect their data. And a lot of companies have technologies and systems in place to do that. However, they're not always complete. And complete meaning, an outward focus towards external threats. Everyone sees that in the news, and everyone seems to be prepared for that. But a lot of threats we find actually come internally from people accessing information they shouldn't have access to, or being able to access files that have sensitive data that should be masked or covered. So, that's what IBM Guardium solution is all about, is really protecting both those external and internal threats, which can cost a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of heartache for many companies. So data is very challenging to secure. We have the 3 Ds of data here that we talk about a lot. Data being dynamic, growing exponentially, moving constantly, ins and outs, throughputs, all throughout your infrastructure. It's disparate and distributed. Lots of different types, lots of different formats. Your data is constantly going through different applications. There's lots of different people touching it. So that distribution of data is everywhere, and hard to keep control over. And the demand, as businesses grow and thrive, the demand and need for data is constantly there and constantly growing. Users need data to get their jobs done. They need data to share with their customers and with their key decision makers in order to run the business. So what does Guardium do? Guardium uses an intelligent and automated approach to help safeguard your data throughout all the different phases of your data lifecycle. We're looking at analyzing, automatically understanding your critical data, where it resides, what risks are involved with that data. Looking to adapt, to be able to implement policies, handle changes, pick up new systems, identify, those new data sources as they come online and minimize your exposure and risk. And we're looking to protect your data. So to safeguard access to your data, to mask that sensitive data and ensure it's protected from only those people who actually need to use it. And then automate and ensure your compliance and ensure your risk for failing audits and specific compliance activities are minimal. So IBM Guardium helps you do all this, and we help you do it through the most complex environments. Traditional applications, your enterprise vendors, your enterprise databases, but also now your big data environments and your cloud environments. It's a complete solution that's flexible and adaptable to the ever-changing world of data and systems. And also, really important now is your unstructured data. That information that isn't in a traditional storage repository that's constantly changing, that contains a lot of critical data, possibly sensitive data that isn't necessarily managed with the same capabilities as a traditional repository. Guardium aims to satisfy all those data security and compliance needs, including these large-scale environments, and not just from an IBM perspective, as you see, all enterprise vendors. So there's a three-pronged approach of analyze, protect, and adapt. We're looking to govern your data and help you with that. Discover, classify your data, assess your vulnerabilities like we talked about. Encrypting, masking, redacting your sensitive data, protecting that key information that enables you to manage your customers and your business. Monitoring continuously, data at rest, data flow, data in motion between applications, being able to have that constant view and ensure your data is protected wherever it resides and wherever it goes. Blocking and alerting, if a sensitive repository is accessed, knowing immediately that was accessed and making sure that it was an authorized user versus an attack. Blocking to see a query come out, and instead of letting it run and trying to analyze it, stopping it right away, giving you the ability to protect that information before that query executes and never allowing that data to even get touched. And then to automate your compliance and auditing and ensure your policies are met in place. So here's a look at kind of the Guardium interface. Again, we're looking to analyze and automatically protect your sensitive information and your risks. As you can see, it's kind of a dashboard approach. You can see your sensitive data and where it resides. You can see your access and activities. The flow chart shows you activity, color codes it to alert you of anomalies, and uncover those risks in real time. Understanding your information is key. If you don't understand where your data is and you don't understand how it's being accessed, you can't govern it. So, Guardium gives you that ability to understand not only the data, but where it's from and where that database is sourced and how it, how it is tracked and protected. Again, continuously monitoring, protecting against internal threats as well as external threats, implementing your real-time policies, and giving privileged users the right access without, compromising access for everybody. Some more visuals here of the UI and the operational dashboards, things you can see. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Moving on to the protection phase. So, IBM Guardium is all about protecting that critical information, minimizing your risk, helping automate that compliance and your auditing metrics. So, a couple ways we can do that. One is through encryption. Encrypt your data. Just add that layer of security as data passes through applications, is accessed by your users. Data masking capabilities are world-class to take those important information like credit card numbers and social security numbers and redacting the actuals, but still giving your agents on the front lines access to some information to validate their customers and provide a good customer experience, but without risking exposure of that key personal information. And then, like we talked about a little, that dynamic masking and real-time alerting and ability to quarantine and ensure that you're proactive in your visibility of your data access and your data activity and not reactive, really giving you that real-time view to make decisions on the fly and ensure that your data does not go into the wrong hands. So again, protecting across all of your applications, your files, your unstructured and structured sources. Guardium supports, databases, data warehouses like we talked about, traditional applications, but also Hadoop, your unstructured data repositories, your file systems. We'll get into a little bit more about that a little later on here. And your big data platforms. A lot of companies have a big data strategy, a big data practice in place. Big data constantly in motion, large volumes of data, lots of different types, like we talked about. Guardium can be configured to, manage and maintain all those systems at once. Cloud-based, traditional on-premise applications, your traditional appliances and warehouses. It is flexible to implement, manage in one master front-end system, one user interface, and allow you that full integrated view of your data. And adapt. And one of the key features of Guardium is the ability to adapt to the constant changing of applications, but also repositories. You bring up a new HR system and database, and the system knows that there's a new connection into the data environment. It knows to implement policy. It knows to, start to monitor and analyze and understand, and gives you the ability to make sure that, yes, that is a valid data source that needs to be protected and managed in the environment, or, that ability to block it and say, I'm not sure why this is being uploaded. Could it be malware? Could it be some rogue application? You get that ability on the fly. The system is intelligent enough to understand that. But then also as you scale and add more layers of data and more systems and sources, the system scales with you and really gives you that constant full system monitoring and access that we've discussed. So as I mentioned, that auto discovery, new databases come online. You're discovered, you're monitoring real time. It picks it up and continues to implement your monitoring and policy. Personnel changes, keeping up with privileged users and non-privileged users, understanding that as people come in and out of your company, that they have access to the right levels of data, and that if they do leave the organization, that access is restricted in real time. You don't want somebody in your finance department walking out the door with, a file of all your key accounts and balances, or your financial statements. If they leave, their access is cut off. So, protecting that employee or a former employee from accessing the wrong data and the wrong systems is very important. Or in changing roles too. So you have someone who moves from one role to another and ensuring that now they only have access to the information needed to perform their new role. Very important to, continue that practice of monitoring and auditing user rights. And then also, tracking your data volumes, load balancing, things like that. You don't want to disrupt your flow of information. You don't want to slow down your production environment. So, the tool is really flexible and efficient to implement your policies, load balance, ensure that their data continues to flow securely and, optimally throughout the environment. So some of the, really the key values we see with this Guardium solution, reduction of costs, a single solution to enable you to protect your data and monitor it throughout, regardless of source system, data type, and format. A single tool, easy to maintain and manage. Your increased security, that whole view of your data, not just understanding and firewalling your data, but really protecting it throughout its life cycle, from inputs and outputs to internal access, external threats, that constant monitoring that we discussed. That single user interface really allows you to streamline your processes, implement your policies and manage it real time on the fly, really through one or two resources as opposed to many. And then just the reduction in costs and of implementing an increased security platform, protecting you from your sensitive data, making it out on the black market, being sold on the dark web, as we've seen with large retailers like Target, multi-millions of dollars, not only to rebuild their systems and re-protect their data, but also in that negative cost to their customers and to their stock price. We're talking, 9-figure, cost of doing business for not having a protected environment, and that's where Guardium really can help you avoid that situation. So a couple of success stories. A large global bank implemented IBM Guardium Security to analyze and protect their data. They were looking for real-time continuous monitoring of their data. They had over 5,000 data sources through a single instance of Guardium, including their big data platform, and recognized that full security view that they were looking for without impacting their performance of their critical applications. So, a great story of just being able to take this solution and deploying it across a massive organization without affecting their business. From a protect perspective, a large U.S. auto manufacturer looking to audit and protect 500 production databases, and also to streamline their costs and reduce expenses for data security. So they implemented Guardium, and based on the gains in their user experience, as well as that ability to consistently monitor through their entire network and systems, they were able to reduce their security FTEs from 10 to 1. A pretty effective way to implement some cost savings there. And then from the adapt perspective, major U.S. insurance company deployed Guardium across 130 databases in just over 3 weeks to meet auditing, HIPAA, and other compliance regulations that they were not prepared for and were facing a large fine. So we were able to help them avoid that situation. So, some great stories there. The overall product view, you'll see these products if you go to IBM.com or you do some Google research. Again, all part of the same platform. They give you those, full the full protection and capabilities to secure your environment, as we were discussing. We're going to touch on two, following up here on the vulnerability assessment as well as the data protection for files, to give you a little deeper view into the product. But these are the 6 products that you'll find already out in the market today. And in summary of the platform, Guardium is there to support your entire data protection journey, your entire data lifecycle. We want to keep it secure, available, and protected internally and externally. So that comprehensive data protection, blocking and alerting, encrypting, integrating with your security intelligence platforms, that ability to mask your sensitive data, understand where it is, protect it, mask it, keep it from people that should not have access to it, only your privileged users. Understand your vulnerabilities, mitigate your risk ahead of time at a proactive approach before a data breach occurs. Protect your big data platforms, data in motion, data at rest, your file systems, that data in an unstructured repository, accessing queries, blocking and preventing unauthorized repository or data log file access. And then really that focused data monitoring, making sure that your database is not just your data and not just your log files, but all layers are monitored, able to report on in real time. So let's get into a little bit about the data privacy for files application. Businesses are still struggling with unstructured data. I mean, not just from sources that everyone knows and loves every day, like Twitter and Facebook and Amazon and customer feedback. You also have unstructured data, such as like a credit card application or an employee background check, that all contains, personal, secure information that you need to know not only where it resides, who has access to it, and how to protect it. And businesses are still struggling with that. You can see some of the stats here. 93% of all data will be unstructured in the digital universe in the next 4 years. It's an astronomical number. Data volume growth is expected to be over 800% in the next 5 years. Out of that data growth, 80% of that will reside as unstructured data. It will not be transformed or managed in a structured way. It will still be in an unstructured environment. And that's the big problem. We need to understand and manage access to unstructured data without exposing it and without having to go through an expensive transformation or rewrite process. How can we use metadata, make correlations and contents repositories that allow, protected access that we can manage and make alerts on. And that's what IBM Security Data Protection for Files really does. It is your key file systems outside of your traditional environment where that data is going to reside and needs to be monitored and managed accordingly. So what does it do? Discovery and classification provides metadata management. Understanding the data, understanding what's sensitive and what's not, being able to identify that up front and implement policy to protect it. Continuous monitoring, just like we talked about with the overall arching solution, having the ability to continuously monitor, implement policies, and manage access of privileged users to your unstructured data just as important. And then that alerting and blocking technology, really key for your compliance, really key to be automated, really key to ensure that your unstructured sensitive data is not accessed where it shouldn't be. And this is all done through the single appliance, the Guardium Data Protection for Files. Contains all the features and functions we talked about, the scalability, the discovery and classification, but it's purpose-built for your unstructured data. You still get your real-time policy implementation, your access and visibility in your source systems, the ability to bring on new repositories and new data sources in real time and continue to monitor it. But again, purpose-built for unstructured data, protect your files. More on that. So the key points to remember, discover your data, where it resides, be able to classify it, protect access to it. I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but I can't stress enough that unstructured environment is really mismanaged and hard to manage traditionally, and that's where organizations are really focused now in ensuring that they can manage that in a proactive, secure way. Regulatory compliance, implement your controls, implement your policies, be able to manage your data with an audit trail and meet your regulations to ensure you're in policy. And then the scale. Continue to support the heterogeneous environments, disparate data sources, disparate data types, and ensure that data privacy is maintained throughout your life cycle. So, some of the key use cases for this solution: finding and classifying your personal identification information. This solution is going to scan, classify, understand your sensitive content, know that there's social security numbers in place, flag them, make sure you can implement your policy for data masking, make sure you can restrict access to credit card information. When, for example, when you call in to, Apple and you're complaining about your phone and you broke your screen and they can't find your insurance claim or your insurance policy that you purchased 2 years ago. You call in as a user, you want to be protected and ensure that that person, has access to the right information and can give you a good customer experience. But also from the other side, Apple wants to ensure their employees are protected in providing that experience. So when they ask you to validate who you are and they take your information, they ask you 20 questions about your address, what's your social security number, that agent doesn't need your whole social security number. That's why they ask you for those 4 digits. Or can you confirm the last 4 digits of your credit card you used to make that purchase? It's about protecting you, the consumer, but also protecting the employee, making sure that you get a good experience. And from the Apple side, your data is protected and your data is available and leveraged in the right way to service the customer. Use case number 2, monitoring, not just the data, but also the configuration, the log files, your source code, applications that connect, making sure that unauthorized users cannot access that data, whether it be structured or unstructured. We talked about personal information, understanding the data, understanding where it is, understanding that sensitive data might be in multiple places, and again, the ability to restrict access, to block users from obtaining access to that data is so key. But also making sure the person who does need access to it has access to it to get their job done and to ensure continuity of the business. And really the last use case we come across is to protect, that back-end access. Make sure that privileged users can access it only. If you are not a privileged user, you cannot get into it. If you're a new application that is trying to tap into a repository or a resource, that application is, governed and monitored constantly, flagged and privileged or not, before it has access. And, again, just all about protecting those external threats as well. If a rogue malware application gets in your environment and it starts trying to access data files, the system will know that in real time and shut down that access. But also a lot of those tools aren't just going after the application systems or going after the data files. They might be digging through logs and other back-end procedures that might not come to mind right away when you think of a data breach. The solution will provide all of that back-end security to prevent unauthorized access. Speaking, briefly on that, we mentioned the Target data breach several years ago that everybody saw and has read all about and probably still continues to hear about. That actually came from a piece of malware that was someone was able to install on a back-end application. They were able to get through a firewall through a user that had access to kind of an orphaned application, and that piece of malware was then installed. It was undetected, and then what it did was it scanned and it looked for a vulnerability and it looked for a gap. It wasn't just going to a POS environment or a financial system. It was scanning and looking for that vulnerability to then access further and deeper into the data architecture. And that's where, IBM Guardium solution really could have helped, not only prevent access of that rogue agent install, but really would have then prevented each of the steps taken. It was a multi-step attack that involved access to a number of different vulnerabilities, accessing data it should not have, and then being able to export it out to overseas contacts. It was a very robust attack. Guardium would have known right away that there was an attempt to install something. If somehow that was orphaned and not part of the network and protected, Guardium would have seen the activity. It would have seen the queries and the access attempts into other areas of the data architecture, and it would have shut them down. It would have blocked and flagged that and alerted and given people notice that there was some activity going on. If somehow it progressed, past those eyes and someone allowed it further access, once the data was breached, it would have been flagged as sensitive data and would not have been allowed to export. So all along through the steps of the way, a secure, governed approach like the IBM Guardium solution really would have prevented that attack from ever even starting, much less how it progressed over the course of several weeks and became what it did. So, really a powerful story there. And this vulnerability assessment is a nice segue off of that. This is really the tool that's going to monitor and manage your network and really take a risk-based approach to understanding where you might have gaps. It scans your assets, understands them, helps you classify them, understands who has access to what, and then looks for errors in configurations, looks for improper passwords or unrestricted user access or non-privileged users or defunct users. It also then provides reporting and scores, lets you know, hey, where are your biggest risks? Help you prioritize where you're gonna focus on first, and then how to identify and implement new policies to protect those assets. Make sure you can meet your SLAs and also your policies such as HIPAA and not fail an audit. So what's involved? It's an automated scan, searches your environment, identifies gaps and weaknesses in your risks, scans your reports. Make sure that the reports contain the right information, sensitive information is protected, and gives you a risk assessment as well. And then recommends exactly how to prioritize and remediate those gaps. Again, making sure that your data is protected all along the way, your users are protected, your environment, your source systems, structured and unstructured. So here's just kind of a sample output of the report, the dashboard that you can see. Lots of different source systems, file types, things like that. You can see how robust it is. And it's really simple. It's a couple of clicks, identify the data sources you want to assess, click run, and it runs through the applications, again, not impacting performance, comes up with results and gives you a remediation plan. Really powerful tool, again, to be proactive in your data privacy and data management experience. And now, full support for cloud. Not only your cloud architecture and infrastructure such as AWS and Azure, Oracle, IBM, Google Cloud, but also, your cloud databases, structured data sources, MySQL, Postgres, SQL databases, but also, other cloud supported products like Mongo, SAP, really powerful, really diverse solution now that fully supports your data architecture, whether on-prem, cloud, or in a hybrid environment. So a couple of the use cases for the Guardium Vulnerability Assessment. Again, identify risk and harden your data assets. Understand, identify, protect your critical data sources. Make sure they're configured properly. Make sure your password requirements are met. Make sure everything is patched and current and up to date. Gives you the ability to, and that peace of mind in managing your applications and version controls and things like that, that a lot of companies take for granted. Policy compliance. Make sure your sensitive personal information is protected. It's available to who should have access to it, not available to those who shouldn't, without impacting your day-to-day operations or your customer experience. Protecting your critical data, reducing your compliance costs. Again, knowing upfront where your vulnerabilities are, allowing you to proactively manage and automate your security policies, reducing future costs. Great use case. Really any client can use that proactive approach to vulnerability, risk, and gaps. And then again, discovering your sensitive data, dormant entitlement, vulnerabilities. You get a full picture of your data environment, who has access to what, where your key assets lie, who's accessing where your data is traveling to, really just that secure data protection point of view on an automated, ongoing, continuous basis. So finally, kind of the key takeaways, overview of vulnerability assessment. Single integrated appliance, much like the data privacy for files application. Get all the access and features integrated into the full Guardium solution like we discussed. No agents to run. Read-only access, a single web interface. Couple of clicks, run the assessment. Shortly thereafter, you get a comprehensive report prioritizing, offering remediation steps to improve your security policies. Can be scheduled and rerun. Results can be shared with your key users or privileged users, whoever needs access to that information. Integration with your other security tools and assets. Again, very, very flexible, very comprehensive, agnostically built to ensure, regardless of the data type, the data system, the application, the vendor, your data environment as you have it can be managed and protected through a single solution effectively. And then, really powerful. One collector appliance can store results for up to 750 data sources. So scalable as well. And that hybrid environment approach, support for multiple platforms, cloud-based, traditional on-prem data sources, and unstructured and structured data. So that pretty much takes us through what I wanted to cover today, a quick overview of the solution, some of the key features, some of the key components, give you that understanding of the solution and something to think about in terms of your organization's security infrastructure. Really looking forward to any feedback on this session. We'll take a minute here for question and answer, but again, I will be sharing these files and systems. Someone from our team will definitely be following up with you as well to make sure you did have any questions or would like to learn more, that we're a resource for you here. Is either myself or LaShawn, who is sitting here with me and enjoying the content. But again, IBM Security is world-class enterprise vendor. Everybody knows IBM, world-class solutions for analytics, cloud, and security. 25 industry analyst reports rank IBM as a leader. IBM technologies are world-class. Again, agnostically built. IBM truly is about solving business problems and helping clients, get the most out of their data. 12,000 clients plus, including 90% of the Fortune 100 companies. So no business is too big, no business is too small for security. solution from IBM. And, you know, those of us here at TechD appreciate your attention and time, and, you know, definitely the opportunity to have spent this time with you and to, you know, continue the conversation in the future. So, you know, with that, I'll open the line to any questions you might have now. You can, I believe, to click to raise your hand and I can unmute your line. Otherwise, I don't believe we can hear you. Okay. Well, we don't have any questions on the line here, so I want to thank you again for joining us today. We will have a new schedule of webinars for the end of the year coming out shortly. You can check out our website, tech-dynamics.com, to learn more, and we will definitely be sharing with our mailing list and yourselves as well. I appreciate you joining us, appreciate your attention, and look forward to speaking with you soon. Thanks so much. Have a great day.